Neighbors peeked curiously, wondering why Hoa's house was so noisy and chaotic today. Peeking inside, they saw more than 10 people, most of them complete strangers to her. They were there with one purpose: to collect the outstanding debt left by her deceased husband. The amount they demanded she pay immediately was immense, as it had been overdue for many days. For a widow like her, the debt left by her late husband was simply too heavy a burden. Hoa had lived with her husband, Mr. Bach, for most of her life. Despite their struggles, they had one child together. She remembered how, when Mr. Bach was alive, he desperately wanted a child. He borrowed money from everywhere to pay for his wife's fertility treatments, but all his efforts were in vain. Instead, he accumulated a colossal debt. When he died in the hospital after an accident, the debt remained unpaid. Worse, the interest had compounded, growing larger day by day. Now, after more than a week of missed payments, the creditors, along with their intimidating henchmen, arrived at her doorstep early in the morning. With no other choice, Hoa reluctantly invited the formidable creditor and her grim-faced henchmen inside to negotiate. Sitting opposite Hoa was a woman with a fierce face and sharp, cold eyes that sent shivers down the spines of anyone who dared look at her. Her gaze swept over Hoa's empty, sparsely furnished home before settling on Hoa's terrified, bloodless face. This was Ms. Binh, the most notorious loan shark in the village. As Hoa poured fresh, hot tea into a cup for her, Ms. Binh snapped, "I've been too lenient with you, Hoa. Ever since your husband died in that accident, I've reduced the interest countless times and given you more time to pay. But you've repaid my kindness by refusing to pay time after time. Today, I can't forgive you anymore." Hoa, tears streaming down her face, pleaded, "Please, Ms. Binh, just give me a little more time. I promise I'll find a way to pay you back. Ever since my husband passed away, my life has been so." Before Hoa could finish, Ms. Binh raised her right hand high and slammed it down hard on the table. The powerful blow sent the teacup crashing to the floor, shattering instantly. Ms. Binh pointed a finger at Hoa's face and snarled, "To hell with your sob story. I don't have time for this. I've given you plenty of time and you haven't paid me a single penny, so don't try that trick on me. Are you paying today or not? If you pay, you live. If not, I'll make you die and send you to join your husband." Before Hoa could even open her mouth to beg again, Ms. Binh gestured to her waiting henchmen, signaling them to take drastic measures with the debtor. This was a tactic Ms. Binh had planned long before coming to collect. "Hit her hard, boys, until she coughs up the money," she commanded. Hearing Ms. Binh's order, the thugs began to brutally beat Hoa without mercy, like savage beasts tearing at their prey. They didn't stop until their victim was exhausted and breathed her last. One of Ms. Binh's henchmen turned Hoa's body over, face down on the ground, and said, "Ms. Binh, I think she's gone." Ms. Binh had employed this brutal tactic countless times with her subordinates, and it had always been effective. Debtors always paid up, even if the interest was exorbitant. Never had it resulted in someone's death. This time, however, a murder had occurred. Ms. Binh was utterly shocked. She sprang up from her chair and rushed over, placing a hand under Hoa's nose to check. Just as her henchman had said, the poor woman had been beaten to death. Ms. Binh gritted her teeth and cursed, "Damn it, she just died like that? How am I supposed to get my money back now?" Then, enraged, she turned on her henchmen, yelling, "You useless idiots. You're supposed to get my money, not kill the debtor. What good are you?" After raging for a while, Ms. Binh fumed, then sat back down in her chair, trying to compose herself. After a long moment of thought, she finally spoke, "If she's dead, then you boys quietly dispose of her body for me. Make sure it's clean and tidy. If by some unfortunate chance it gets discovered later, I'll bury each and every one of you alive." This was their first time killing someone, so despite their outwardly tough demeanor, Ms. Binh's henchmen were all gripped by fear and panic. Sensing their hesitation, Ms. Binh rose from her chair and ordered, "Burn that body. From now on, this woman's death will follow you until the day you die. If any of you here breathes a single word about this, I swear I'll chop them into pieces and feed them to the dogs. Understood?" Ms. Binh's henchmen were always terrified of her. They knew she was a woman of her word, and her unique, ruthless personality gave her unparalleled authority in the village. There was no questioning her. Outside, night had fallen, and the villagers had turned off their lights and gone to sleep. On the deserted village road, Ms. Binh's henchmen carried the poor woman's body against the wind, along a desolate dirt path, towards an old, abandoned house that had stood vacant for years. It was infamous in the village, a place no one dared approach, only looking from a distance. Its history was so frightening that it cast a powerful spell of dread. The villagers were scared because people had met tragic ends there, and the rumors of ghosts and spirits had only grown stronger over the years. But Ms. Binh was different. She didn't believe in ghosts or spirits and saw this as the most discreet place to dispose of a body without fear of discovery. Upon reaching the abandoned house, Ms. Binh pointed inside and ordered her henchmen, who were carrying Hoa's body, to take it in and burn it. "I forbid any of you from leaving until the body is completely ashes or from leaving any trace behind. If you do, I'll kill you," she threatened. With that, Ms. Binh turned and left, leaving her henchmen to look at the cold, stiff body wrapped in a mat with uneasy eyes. One of them spoke up, "Should we follow Ms. Binh's orders or bury her somewhere else?" Another quickly retorted, "We must follow Ms. Binh's orders. Don't defy her or you'll face disaster. Ms. Binh is not to be trifled with. If she finds out we disobeyed her, she'll really deal with us." After a few seconds of silence, someone in the group spoke again, "I think we shouldn't follow Ms. Binh's wishes. Let's find a suitable place and bury the body properly." It would be an act of great disrespect to burn her as Ms. Binh instructed. Everyone agreed with their comrade's suggestion. They carried Hoa's body to a plot of land behind the abandoned house and buried it carefully, then quickly left, leaving a fresh grave on the cold, desolate ground. Hoa's younger brother, Tom, was overseeing her house. One night, a week after Hoa's tragic death, Tom, sleeping beside his young wife, Ngan, suddenly awoke. Ngan, startled awake herself, complained, "What are you doing? If you can't sleep in the middle of the night, at least let others sleep." Tom's face was drenched in sweat. He wiped his forehead and said, "I just dreamed of Hoa. Her face looked so scary, like she was dying in the house." Ngan turned to face him and asked, "You dreamed of Hoa?" "So strange, that house of hers with all the debt and our family struggling too. Why don't you just sell it? What's the point of clinging to a dead house you can't take with you?" Before Ngan could finish, Tom raised his hand to stop her. "Don't talk like that. How can I sell it? And where is she? Don't you see how pitiful she is?" "Pitiful? Who isn't pitiful?" Ngan shot back. "Isn't our family pitiful? Every month we're breaking our backs to pay interest to Ms. Binh. I heard Hoa owes Ms. Binh a fortune, not a small amount at all. Why don't you go talk to Hoa this time? Discuss selling that house to pay off both your debts to Ms. Binh once and for all? Wouldn't that be better?" Tom sighed, thinking, then muttered, "It's not that easy. You know my sister's personality. Ever since Mr. Bach died, she's changed. It won't be easy to convince her." "Oh, please," Ngan scoffed. "That's ridiculous. It's Mr. Bach's house and you're on the title deed. Selling it shouldn't be hard. Who would refuse money? I promise, after selling it, you can give her a bigger share. Even if she can't cope with her current situation, she'll have to." Tom walked to get a towel to wipe his face, then returned to bed. He lay there in silence, thinking for a long time, then finally spoke, "I guess I have to try convincing her one more time. There's no other way. Plus, I'm tired of working like a dog just to pay off debt. All right, go to sleep. Tomorrow morning, I'll find a way to go talk to her." Ngan gently placed a hand on his arm and whispered, "Honey, didn't Mr. Kwong hint many times that he wanted to buy that piece of land from you? Tomorrow, if you convince Hoa to sell that land, Mr. Kwong would be the most suitable buyer. He offered a high price, didn't he?" Tom nodded. "Yes, he did say he'd pay a high price. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Things have to be discussed with Hoa tomorrow before we can decide." As soon as dawn broke, Tom got up and went to Hoa's house to talk. Unlike many times before when he'd call out and Hoa would answer and open the door, this time was different. Tom called himself hoarse outside, but there was no sound or movement from inside. The door wasn't locked. "That's strange," he mumbled. "It's not locked, but no one's answering. Is she busy inside? I'll just go in and see." With that, Tom gently opened the door and entered. He called out loudly, but was met only with an eerie, inexplicable silence. "How odd, she always locks the door when she goes out. What could be wrong?" Tom quickly went inside, checking every room, but his sister was nowhere to be found. He returned to the first floor and sat on a chair, assuming Hoa had gone out to buy something and would be back soon. But he waited for over an hour, and there was still no sign of his sister. Tom felt a growing unease. He pulled out his phone and dialed Hoa's number. The phone's ringing shattered the quiet atmosphere of the house. Following the sound, Tom found his sister's phone in a dresser drawer in her bedroom. Where did she go that she didn't even bother to take her phone? Tom waited for many more hours, but his sister never returned. He called relatives, but they all said Hoa hadn't visited them. A thought began to form in his mind. Perhaps the colossal debt left by his brother-in-law had forced his sister to flee. Immediately, he thought of Ms. Binh, suspecting she might have come to collect. After pondering for a long time at the house, Tom decided to seek out Ms. Binh to talk, and to also inquire if Ms. Binh had indeed driven his sister to such desperate measures. When Tom arrived at Ms. Binh's house, he stood outside and called for a long time until someone finally opened the door. It was one of Ms. Binh's henchmen. As Tom stood outside, the man unlocked the door and asked in a gruff voice, "What do you want?" Tom replied, "I need to speak with Ms. Binh. Please tell her that Tom is here. There's something important I need to discuss." "Come in, I'll tell her," the henchman said. Tom waited in the courtyard. While the henchman went inside to inform Ms. Binh, Tom stood outside, pulling out a cigarette and smoking half of it before the henchman returned. "Come in, she's waiting." "Thank you," Tom said. He entered the house and found Ms. Binh sitting at a tea table. She motioned for him to sit opposite her, then pushed a cup of hot tea towards him and poured some. "What brings you here so late, Tom?" Tom sipped the hot tea and slowly said, "Ms. Binh, I went to Hoa's house, but her door was open, and she hasn't come home yet, even though it's already evening. I came here to ask if you know where my sister might be." Hearing Tom mention Hoa, Ms. Binh's face stiffened slightly. She quickly composed herself. "I haven't seen her since the day I went to collect the debt. She still hasn't come to pay. If you keep looking for her in vain, I'll probably have to send my men to her house to talk tomorrow. Anyway, since you're here, there's something I want to discuss with you." "Yes, please tell me, I'm listening," Tom replied. "You know, your sister owes me a lot of money. I think that house of hers would sell for a good price now. So why don't you sell the house to me? Deduct the amount your sister owes me, and I'll pay you the rest. That way, the debt is settled, you'll have money from the house sale, and you can do whatever you want. Don't you think I'm right?" Tom nodded. "You're right, but the problem is my sister isn't home yet. I can't discuss selling the land if she's not here. We'll have to wait until she returns to proceed." Ms. Binh smirked. "What's so difficult about that? From what I've found out, you're the one whose name is on the title deed. You own the entire plot of land. If Hoa isn't here, you have full authority to handle it. Why wait for your sister to come back? Besides, I think your sister might have fled from her debts. She probably won't be coming back." Tom considered Ms. Binh's words and found them reasonable. If his sister had indeed fled because of the debt, he would choose to sell the house to pay off the debt for both of them. Then, his sister could return without fear of Ms. Binh's henchmen bothering her. But then he thought about where his sister would live after the house was sold, and he fell silent, hesitating. Ms. Binh saw his silence and asked, "What's wrong? Am I forcing you to sell it to me right away?" "Go home, think it over, and discuss it with your wife. You can give me your answer the day after tomorrow." Tom felt he couldn't make an immediate decision, so he agreed to Ms. Binh's suggestion and went home to think, planning to give her an answer in 2 days. When Tom returned home, Ngan was sitting in the backyard. Seeing her husband arrive, she quickly stood up, rushed over, and eagerly asked, "Honey, how did it go? Did you talk to Hoa? Did she agree to sell the house?" "How could I sell it? I didn't even see Hoa," Tom replied. "What? Where did she go? You didn't see her. She's gone somewhere, and I've been waiting for her forever. Or is she hiding from debt? You have the key, don't you? Or why don't you just take this opportunity to decide yourself and sell the house right away? Use the money to pay off the debt for both of you? That way, she can come back later without fearing Ms. Binh's henchmen. That sounds perfectly reasonable." Tom took a deep drag from his pipe, puffed out the smoke for a few minutes, then waved his hand and said, "It's not as easy as you think. Think about it. If we sell the house now, where will Hoa live when she comes back?" Ngan stood up and laughed. "I thought you were worried about something serious. What's so hard about that? Just sell the house and pay off the debt. When she comes back, we can just clear out the storage room for her to live in." Tom shook his head in resignation and nodded. "Ah, I didn't think of that. All right, tomorrow I'll sell the house. But Ms. Binh said she wants to buy it too. Should I sell it to her or Mr. Kwong?" Ngan pursed her lips. "Of course, sell it to Mr. Kwong and use that money to pay Ms. Binh." "Why would you sell it to the person you owe money to? She'll definitely try to squeeze the price down. After paying off your sister's debt, how much money will you have left? In my opinion, selling to Mr. Kwong is the most sensible. He'll pay a high price and we won't be pressured. And as for Hoa, as I said, you don't need to worry. We have plenty of room for her." Mr. Kwong, who had just arrived to talk to Tom about the house, overheard this last part and realized an important issue. "So, Mr. Tom, have you discussed selling the house with Hoa yet?" Tom sighed and said, "She's left the house, Mr. Kwong, and she still hasn't come back. I'm afraid it's because of the large debt she owes Ms. Binh. She couldn't wait any longer, I fear. Mr. Kwong sighed. Don't worry, Mr. Tom. The money from selling that house will be more than enough for you and your sister to pay off Ms. Binh's debt. Speaking of Ms. Binh, she's known for lending money at exorbitant interest rates. Her henchmen have caused no small number of incidents in this village, yet she continues to act so brazenly, as if heaven has no eyes. Tom responded, As for the house, Mr. Kwong, you can rest assured. The house is mine, and my name is on the title deed. If my sister has truly left, I have the right to sell the house to you. And regarding your concern that Hoa might bother you later, you don't need to worry. I believe Hoa will understand my situation and won't bother you. Mr. Kwong nodded, satisfied. If you weren't in such a desperate situation, you wouldn't be selling this house. I understand. That's why I'll pay a high price. I hope the money from the house sale will give you both a more comfortable life. A week later, the sale of the house was finalized. Mr. Kwong hired workers to repaint and renovate it. Meanwhile, Tom, having received the money from the sale, immediately went to Ms. Binh's house to pay off the entire debt for both him and his sister. Although Ms. Binh wasn't happy that Tom had sold the house to Mr. Kwong, she still cheerfully accepted the money and invited Tom in for tea. Ms. Binh said, It's good that we're both happy. From now on, you and your sister are debt-free from me. No one owes anyone anything. Tom, you should try to contact Hoa. Tell her you've paid off all her debt. Tell your sister she can come back now. She doesn't need to hide anymore. Tom replied, Ms. Binh, you know many people. Would you mind listening out for any news about my sister? If you hear anything, please let me know so I can bring her home. Of course, Ms. Binh said. I'll contact my acquaintances to help find your sister. I'll let you know immediately if I hear anything. Tom nodded his thanks and stood up to leave. As he walked past the house he had sold to Mr. Kwong, he paused to look at it. This house held many beautiful memories of him, his sister, and their parents. If he hadn't been in such overwhelming debt, he would never have sold it, no matter what. But times had changed, and money was hard to come by. Selling the house had at least opened a path for both him and his sister to survive. Tom sighed, turned, and walked straight home. When he arrived home, from not too far away, he saw the figure of a woman entering his house. In just a few minutes, Tom realized the person who had just entered was no stranger, but his sister, Hoa. He ran like the wind to the door, calling out loudly, Hoa, sister, you're back? Inside, Ngan was washing clothes. Hearing her husband mention his sister's name, she was surprised. She stopped washing, stood up, and quickly walked out into the yard. What did you say? Hoa is back. Tom stood bewildered in the yard, his eyes darting everywhere, searching for his sister. But inside the house and in the yard, there were only him and his wife, no one else. Tom wondered if he had just been hallucinating. When Tom didn't answer, Ngan gently pinched his cheek and asked again, Why aren't you answering? Is Hoa back? Tom sat down on the steps, murmuring, It's too strange. I clearly saw her coming in from the market just a moment ago, but I rushed back a few minutes later and she's nowhere to be found. Ngan breathed a sigh of relief, knowing her sister-in-law hadn't returned. She chuckled at her husband and said, You must have seen wrong. Hoa wouldn't come back, especially not after hearing we sold the house. Maybe she's somewhere far away, hiding from her debts. Anyway, you've paid off all her debts. When she comes back, she won't have a house to return to anyway. She'll have to come find you here. Why are you rushing and making yourself miserable? Tom looked at his wife with a displeased expression, stood up, and didn't say another word. He went straight into the bedroom and lay down on the bed. This was perhaps the most peaceful sleep he'd had in many years, because from now on, he no longer had to worry about paying interest on that colossal debt. He was finally getting a good night's sleep, but then Tom dreamed that Hoa had returned. Her face was no different from previous times. Sister, you're back. Where have you been? I was so worried. Come inside. Why are you standing outside? Hoa didn't come in but stood motionless at the door. Unlike her previous appearances in his dreams, this time her face looked terrifying. In many places, blood was seeping from small black holes. She answered her brother's question in a deep, hollow voice. Tom, I died a very wrongful death, Tom. They buried me, Tom. Following the spirit's mournful words inside the psychic, a wailing cry echoed throughout the room. When Hoa's crying stopped, the psychic collapsed for a few minutes before gradually returning to normal. Tom immediately asked the psychic, Did my sister just leave, Master? The psychic replied, She's gone. Your sister's resentment is very strong. She refuses to be reborn. I fear that in the coming days, those evil people who harmed her will not have a moment of peace. So my sister is truly dead? How can I find her, master? Tom asked. The psychic closed his eyes, murmuring as if talking to someone Tom couldn't hear clearly. After a moment, the psychic stopped speaking and opened his eyes, looking at Tom. There was a hint of anger in his eyes. He said, "Go home. Come back tomorrow, and I will take you to where those evil people buried your sister's body." As agreed, the next day, Tom returned to find the psychic. At the door, he saw the psychic waiting, carrying a cloth bundle in his hand. He didn't know what was inside, but it seemed quite heavy. Tom walked up to the psychic and respectfully greeted him. "Master, are you taking me to where my sister was harmed today? But how can you be sure that she was harmed by evil people and buried there?" The psychic's face became stern. "Your sister told me herself where they buried her body. Now I will take you there, and after that, you are free to do as you wish. After all, I can only help you this far. Your family matters are not for an outsider like me to interfere with, and I ask for no money. As for your sister, I will perform a prayer for her soul when the time comes." Tom immediately thanked him. "Thank you, master. My family will definitely repay your kindness." The psychic shook his head. "I will not accept money. If you truly wish to help, donate it to the temple for good deeds. Your sister's soul will also benefit from that merit. Do you understand what I mean?" Tom nodded, and together with the psychic, they went to the location where Ms. Binh's henchmen had buried Hoa's body. They arrived at the abandoned house, a place Tom himself had never dared to approach. Standing on the land rumored to be haunted for the first time, Tom trembled. He stammered, asking the psychic, "Did you say they buried my sister's body here?" "Yes, this very spot," the psychic confirmed. "If I'm not mistaken, your sister's body might be buried somewhere behind this abandoned house. Now, come inside with me to look for her. And please, go find 2 shovels. That will make the search easier." "Yes, I'll take care of it," Tom said, then turned and left. The psychic remained, placing incense sticks around the house. As he inserted each stick into the ground, a wronged spirit would appear at that spot, kneeling and bowing to the psychic. The psychic smiled and said, "If you have been wronged and have any unfulfilled wishes, follow me, and I will surely help you. Do not remain here any longer." As the psychic finished speaking, a mournful cry echoed, and the white figures gradually vanished before his eyes. By the time the psychic had finished planting all the incense sticks he held, Tom returned with a shovel, borrowed from a family living not far from the abandoned house. Tom said to the psychic, "I brought the shovel, master. Where should I dig now?" The psychic pointed to the patch of ground next to where he was standing. "Right here. Dig with all your might, and you will find your sister." Tom immediately used the shovel in his hand to dig at the spot the psychic indicated. Sure enough, after a while of digging, parts of the body, which the psychic confirmed was Hoa, Tom's sister, gradually came into view. Tom recognized the clothes his sister used to wear, and he couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow digging deeper into the earth, his face drenched in tears for his beloved sister. When Hoa's body was fully exposed before him, Tom clutched her decaying remains and wailed in grief. The psychic sighed, then said, "Don't grieve too much. Now that you've found your sister's body, you should quickly report it to the authorities. They will come here to investigate and arrange for her burial. That way, her murderers will be brought to justice, and your sister's soul can finally find peace." At Ms. Binh's house, 2 hours later, she was enjoying her meal when a frantic henchman rushed in from the doorway. "Ms. Binh, there's trouble?" Seeing the henchman's panicked state, Ms. Binh put down her chopsticks. "What's wrong? Calm down and tell me." "Tom found Hoa's body, Ms. Binh." Ms. Binh sat bolt upright, her eyes wide with fury. Her head felt hot enough to smoke as she glared and demanded, "How did he find it? I told you to burn it and clean up thoroughly." "Why did you let Tom find it?" The henchmen who had been with her that day were summoned, trembling before Ms. Binh. She roared, "You useless idiots. Now Tom has found his sister's body and reported it to the authorities. We're all dead." One henchman spoke up, "Ms. Binh, no one knows what we did. We just need to go into hiding. Even if we get caught, don't worry, we won't betray you." Ms. Binh grunted, "That's the only way now. You're driving me mad. If this doesn't get sorted, how can I stay in this village? Take this money and run. You're forbidden to return unless I give the order. And if any of you get caught and dare to confess about me, you know what I'll do to your families, right?" Ms. Binh's henchmen turned pale with fear. Without a word, they understood. They took the money Ms. Binh threw on the table, then one by one, turned and walked out. Those henchmen slipped away through the back gate, taking the dirt road that wound through the fields, and left the village without anyone knowing. After the henchmen had left, Ms. Binh called out to another henchman who was standing outside. "From today onwards, you and the others are to stop going out to collect debts. Wait until this mess with the abandoned grave dies down, then continue. Understood? Yes, Ms. Binh, I understand. I'll inform the others below. Go out now. This afternoon, get the car ready and take me to town for a trip. The henchman bowed low and asked, Isn't it risky to leave now, Ms. Binh? Won't it cause suspicion? Why do you need to ask my opinion about what I do? Ms. Binh snarled. I said take me, so just follow my orders. The henchman dared not argue and turned to leave. Ms. Binh sat alone, calming herself and thinking. She realized the henchman's words had some truth. If she left now, the authorities would surely suspect her involvement in Hoa's death. So Ms. Binh decided not to leave but to stay at home, wait for everything to settle down, and then reconsider. Ms. Binh's attendance at Hoa's funeral surprised everyone present. In the villagers' eyes, Ms. Binh had always been like a demon. Many families had been driven to ruin and forced to leave their homes by her. Now, anyone who saw her would secretly fear her and dare not approach. Tom, unaware of Ms. Binh's involvement in his sister's death, still allowed her to enter and pay her respects. However, something strange happened the moment Ms. Binh lit the incense. The incense sticks, once placed in the offering, immediately burst into flames, terrifying everyone who saw it. Ms. Binh stumbled backward, her face clearly showing fear as she had just seen Hoa's angry eyes in the portrait. She didn't dare stay long. She quickly clasped her hands and bowed a few times, then turned and left, under the bewildered gaze of Tom and the neighbors. After returning from Hoa's funeral, Ms. Binh was constantly haunted by Hoa's angry face and eyes in the portrait. It tormented her mind, causing her to lose sleep and appetite, making her gaunt. Her remaining henchmen simply thought she was ill and weakened, unaware that her life from then on was no different from living in hell. Every night, Ms. Binh would dream of Hoa appearing, sometimes standing at the foot of her bed, sometimes lying beside her. Each time she woke from these nightmares, the obsession grew, consuming her mind. Ms. Binh's business also began to decline from that point on. A powerful figure who once lived in the largest house in the village now had to sell it, believing her house was haunted, and that ghost was Hoa, clinging to her day after day without mercy. Living in her old, smaller house, Ms. Binh would now occasionally be seen by villagers on the street, who couldn't believe their eyes at her current pathetic state. But the families she had once bullied rejoiced. Some said it served her right, that someone as evil as her would eventually get what was coming to them, and no one would feel sorry for her. Ms. Binh's henchmen, seeing the unstable situation, gradually abandoned her. The number of people following her for work dwindled. Ms. Binh had no children, making her life even more difficult. Only 2 trusted henchmen, Ben and another, remained by her side, caring for her daily. One stormy night, Ben was lying on a cot next to Ms. Binh's bed when he suddenly heard a knocking sound. He opened his eyes, sat up and wondered about the sound, then quickly got out of the cot, walked to the door and reached out to open it. Ms. Binh, now awake, said, "It's her, she's outside." Ben stared wide-eyed at Ms. Binh's pale, sickly face, confused. "Who's outside, Ms. Binh? It's just you and me in the house. If there's someone outside, it might be a thief." "Let me open the door and see who it is." "It's Hoa, who else? You're so scared that you're losing your mind." "Just lie still, I'll go check." As soon as the door opened, a cold gust of wind and rain from outside blew in, making Ben shiver. He took out his flashlight from his pocket and swept it left and right, checking, but saw nothing unusual. Ben turned back inside, closed the door, returned to his cot, and said, "It must have been a stray cat, Ms. Binh. There's nothing out there." "What's this talk of ghosts? If you keep going like this, you'll die of exhaustion if not illness. Tomorrow, I'll take you to see a doctor." Ms. Binh lay silently on the bed, but from that moment on, she couldn't get a wink of sleep. This continued until dawn. When the village roosters crowed, Ms. Binh sat up, fumbled for her slippers, got out of bed, and went to open the door. Her trembling hand reached for the 2 door latches. The wind, mixed with rainwater, lashed at Ms. Binh's tired, sickly face. Her appearance at this point was no different from someone suffering from terminal cancer. In the ceaseless rain outside, Ms. Binh saw a familiar figure standing opposite her across the road, looking at her with resentful eyes. She strained her eyes to see clearly, and then, terrified, she recognized her. It was Hoa. Ms. Binh screamed and fell backward onto the ground, unconscious, knowing nothing more. Ms. Binh's fall caused the leaves and branches to rustle down onto the yard, the cracking sound waking Ben, who was sleeping in the cot. He jumped up and rushed over, patting Ms. Binh hard and calling her name, but she wouldn't wake up. Ben then woke the other two henchmen sleeping in the room, and together they carried Ms. Binh to the hospital. Villagers who were out early that morning saw the three henchmen taking Ms. Binh away in such stormy weather and secretly rejoiced, certain that she was finally receiving her karmic retribution. News of Ms. Binh being taken to the hospital early that morning by her henchmen quickly spread through the village and reached Tom through a neighbor. "Mr. Tom, have you heard the news? Ms. Binh was taken to the hospital by her henchmen early this morning. It serves her right for all the wicked things she's done. God's not blind, Mr. Tom. Today is the day she faces her karma." Tom put down his pipe on the bed, startled, thinking he had misheard. "What did you say? Ms. Binh went to the hospital?" "Yes, Mr. Tom. Who in this village doesn't know she caused your sister's death? Now Hoa's spirit in heaven is getting her revenge. Don't talk nonsense, sir. Without proof, you shouldn't speak carelessly like that. If Ms. Binh hears you falsely accusing her, you'll be in big trouble." Long laughed and waved his hand. "There's nothing to fear from Ms. Binh anymore, Mr. Tom. Times have changed. All her henchmen have abandoned her. Now where is she?" "Look, even Ben, her right-hand man, has probably left her now." Tom interjected. "Don't say that. I know Ms. Binh is ruthless, but we also have to remember when we needed money and couldn't borrow from anyone else, it was her we went to. So Ms. Binh, as she is now, is truly pitiful." Long added, "You're too kind, Mr. Tom. Since there's no evidence yet, I won't talk about your sister's case. But think about it, what good things has she ever done? There are countless people in this village who were unfortunate enough to be pushed to their limits by Ms. Binh, driven to hang themselves or jump into rivers. If Ms. Binh really was the mastermind behind your sister's death, let's see if you'll still be so merciful to her then." In his mind, Tom hadn't considered that his sister was murdered, and that the culprit was one of Ms. Binh's henchmen, with Ms. Binh orchestrating it from behind the scenes. But this was just his speculation. He had no evidence to prove that Ms. Binh was the instigator, so he needed to wait for the police investigation to clarify matters. Tom and Long suddenly stopped talking. They both fell silent, listening to the sound of running footsteps getting closer. It was Mr. Min's daughter who had discovered Hoa's body. She ran up to them, hands on her knees, panting, "Mr. Long, Mr. Tom, you won't believe it." The girl glanced up and, seeing Tom standing behind, respectfully bowed. Tom heard her words and seemed to understand. He clapped Long's right hand and urgently said, "Long, come with me to the abandoned field, can you?" Long turned to the girl and asked, "Are you sure you saw a dead person?" "I'm sure." "I was afraid I was hallucinating, so I bravely went closer to look. But when I got there, it was very clear, so I ran here to tell you." Long immediately asked, "Wait, how did you know I was here to come tell me?" The girl replied, "Earlier, when I was running near the abandoned house, I saw a woman dressed completely in white from head to toe. She was pointing inside the abandoned house. It seemed like she wanted help, so I ran over without thinking. After that, I discovered the hanged body on the tree, and then I ran here." Tom and Long exchanged glances. Understanding each other, they both headed towards the abandoned house. Before leaving, they didn't forget to tell the girl to run to the village chief's house to inform him of the situation, then head to the scene. When Tom and Long arrived, they saw several neighbors gathered outside, not daring to go inside. Seeing the two men approach, one of the onlookers quickly said, "Mr. Tom, you've arrived. It's truly terrifying. There's a dead person on that land. I heard your sister was also buried right on this ground. Is that true?" Tom nodded, then he and Long stepped inside. The man hanging from the old longan tree was no stranger. He was one of Ms. Binh's henchmen who had fled after killing Hoa. Tom gasped in recognition. "It's true, isn't this one of Ms. Binh's henchmen? He disappeared for a while, and now he's come all the way back here to hang himself. What's going on?" Long interjected. "I knew his face looked familiar. You're right, this is really strange. I don't understand what's happening to these people." Ms. Binh's business was thriving like a kite in the wind, but in a flash, she went from a tall house to a straw hut, losing everything. "Honestly, Mr. Tom, I truly believe now that evil deeds eventually bring retribution." The villagers began to gather at the abandoned field, one by one, among them some who had once worked for Ms. Binh. Seeing their accomplice hanging from the tree, one stammered in fear, "Didn't Ms. Binh give him money to run away? Why did he come all the way back here to commit suicide?" Someone else, understanding his comrade's implied meaning, immediately dismissed it. "There are too many people here, don't talk nonsense. You'll bring trouble upon yourself. But don't you think like me? It's Hoa's spirit seeking revenge. Shut your mouth. If you say another word, I'll deal with you. Don't you see Ms. Binh now? She's wasted and looks like a ghost. Isn't that because Hoa died a wrongful death and her spirit, unable to find peace, has returned to seek revenge? The other henchman, hearing such offensive words, was furious, but since there were so many people around, he suppressed his anger and said, "Just shut up, I'll talk to you later. For now, just stand still and observe the situation, then run to inform Ben." Ben doesn't know what Ms. Binh did. With his personality, if he really knew what Ms. Binh and those guys did to Hoa, what would happen then? If Ms. Binh didn't tell you, don't you know how to keep your mouth shut? Ben was on his way back from the hospital, going to buy something for Ms. Binh, so he passed by the abandoned field. Seeing a crowd gathered, he knew something was wrong, so he pulled his car over to the side of the road, locked it carefully, and quickly walked towards the gathering. He saw Ms. Binh's henchmen and overheard their short but crucial conversation. His sudden, angry voice and unexpected appearance made the henchmen turn pale. "What are you talking about that you didn't tell me?" The henchmen's faces were now drained of all color. Ms. Binh, that day, she went to Hoa's house to collect money and beat her to death, and today you didn't tell me clearly about her death. The henchmen were so scared that they dared not hide anything and recounted the true story without omitting any details. "I can't believe she was so cruel. When people owe money, you let them pay it back. How could she be so heartless as to beat someone to death? People are precious. Money can be earned back." "How long were you planning to keep this hidden? If I hadn't found out today, would you have continued to conceal the truth?" Ms. Binh's henchmen bowed their heads in apology. Ben pushed one of them aside and walked straight to where Tom and the others were standing. "Mr. Tom, what's going on?" Tom pointed at the hanged body and replied, "Is this someone you know?" Ben looked up and gasped in shock. He stood still for a few minutes. This is, but how?" Tom nodded. "I was just as surprised as you when I got here. This is truly baffling." The police arrived at this point, pushing through the crowd of villagers gathered outside to enter. Ms. Binh's henchmen, seeing the police, gradually left, not daring to stay, fearing trouble. Tom quickly provided information to the police, then went outside with Ben to talk. Tom asked, "There's something I want to ask you, and I need you to tell me the truth." Ben nodded. "I only came back a few days ago. I don't know what's been happening here, but please ask." "If I know, I will tell you. I promise I won't hide anything." "I want to ask if my sister was harmed by Ms. Binh and her henchmen?" Tom questioned. Ben immediately blurted out, "This is true. I just found out myself. Ms. Binh is currently in the hospital, and her condition doesn't look good. If she can get through this, I promise you, I will convince her and those guys who were with Ms. Binh that day to turn themselves in. We can't let Hoa die such a wrongful death." Tom's eyes welled up with tears. "You truly are a good person. You're almost like family to me. I really hope you can get justice for my sister." Ben replied, "Ms. Binh has been kind to me, but rest assured, I will never condone evil. I will provide all the information I know about Ms. Binh's actions to the police." Tom nodded his thanks and turned to walk straight home. Now that it was confirmed that Ms. Binh was the mastermind behind her henchmen killing his sister, he was filled with intense anger, wishing he could strangle her to death with his own hands. But there was still justice in this world. He couldn't act on his impulses. As soon as Tom arrived home and stepped through the door, his wife pulled him inside and urgently asked, "Honey, I heard Ms. Binh is seriously ill and had to be hospitalized. Is that true?" "Yes," he confirmed. Seeing his grave face, Angan immediately asked, "Where have you been, honey? What's wrong? You look so pale." Tom didn't answer her question, but instead asked, "Why are you back so early? You should have stayed at your mother's for at least a day or two before coming back." Angan replied, "Let's talk about that later. I'm asking you, is it true that Ms. Binh is seriously ill and had to go to the hospital?" Tom nodded. "I just heard it from Ben." Angan's eyes widened. "Ben? Is that Ben, Ms. Binh's right-hand man?" "Yes." Angan continued, "I heard he went to the city. Why did he suddenly come back here?" Tom shook his head. "I don't know about that." "But I just asked him, and he said that Hoa was harmed by Ms. Binh and the henchmen who were with her that day. Ben also said that he's going to the police to report everything Ms. Binh and her henchmen did that day. I can't believe she was so cruel as to kill Hoa and then hide her body in the abandoned field behind the house." Angan then said, "I can't believe it. It's true that our Hoa died a wrongful death. This is a clear sign. Don't you see, in such a short time, her business plummeted, and she's so sick she had to be hospitalized. That means she's suffering retribution for the evil she committed." Tom said, "No wonder I kept dreaming of her coming back. It wasn't just a dream, it was her ghost returning to me in my sleep." Angan asked, You really believe Hoa's spirit returned to punish Ms. Binh? Tom replied. Believe it or not, I have to. Just think, Ms. Binh's business was thriving like a kite in the wind, but in a short time, it collapsed completely. Isn't that Hoa dying a wrongful death, her soul returning to seek revenge? Ngan was silent, thinking for a few minutes, then nodded, agreeing with her husband's opinion. You're right, but if that's true, then the day Ms. Binh is arrested by the police isn't far off, is it, honey? Tom nodded. At that moment, outside the closed gate, two dark figures were lurking, peering into the house. Tom saw them from inside and stood up, walking out into the yard. He watched for a moment, then realized the two dark figures were two young police officers, and he breathed a sigh of relief. He walked over, unlocked the gate, and asked, "Can I help you?" One of them spoke up. "Mr. Tom, we've found the mastermind behind your sister's death. Please come with us to the commune police station for a while." "Please wait a moment, gentlemen. I'll go inside to prepare and be right out." Tom followed the two police officers to the commune police station, where he saw Ben standing outside. Seeing Tom and the two officers arrive, Ben quickly rushed to Tom. "Mr. Tom, you're here. Please come inside quickly. As promised, I've gathered all those guys who were with Ms. Binh that day." A satisfied smile appeared on Tom's face. So the evil people who killed his sister would finally face justice. This time, it seemed he hadn't misjudged Ben. He truly was a good person, just working for the wrong boss. He hoped that after this incident, Ben would abandon the job he had done for so many years. Ben waited outside until Tom came out from inside. He stood up, pulled Tom aside, and said, "Mr. Tom, there's something I want to tell you. I don't know if you'll believe it, but all those guys sitting inside confessed that Hoa's spirit appeared to them and scared them. You just called and talked to them for a few minutes, and they all agreed to turn themselves in without any difficulty at all." Tom nodded. "I believe my sister died a wrongful death, so her soul carries a lot of resentment. I even sought out a psychic to call her spirit back. That's how I found out where Ms. Binh and those wretched people buried her body." "Is that true, Mr. Tom?" Ben asked, wide-eyed. "If I didn't hear it from your own mouth, I wouldn't dare believe it. Now Hoa's soul down there must be somewhat comforted. Those guys inside have confessed and revealed that Ms. Binh was the mastermind behind everything. She won't escape justice either." Tom then said, "Ben, there's something I want to tell you. Listen if you want or not. Since things have turned out this way, why don't you stop doing that kind of work and find a decent job instead?" Ben immediately nodded. "I know, Mr. Tom. Even if you hadn't said anything, I had already planned to leave Ms. Binh's side. Now that I know the truth about what she did to Hoa, I can't possibly forgive her. I know Ms. Binh was kind to me, but right is right. I'll wait until she's paid for her crimes. Then, Mr. Long, I will repay her kindness in my own way." Tom patted Ben's shoulder and said, "I'm happy you think that way. In my eyes, you've always been a good person." "Thank you, Mr. Tom. I'll let you go home now." "Thank you, I can get home myself. You go check on Ms. Binh." When Ben returned home, he gathered some belongings and went back to the hospital. But upon arrival, the doctor informed him that Ms. Binh had passed away. Ben handled the procedures and arranged for her body to be transported home. Ms. Binh had no children, so Ben took it upon himself to arrange her funeral, considering it a way to repay her for treating him like a son throughout his many years working for her. While Ms. Binh was alive, everyone in the village detested this cruel and ruthless woman. However, after her death, almost every villager came to pay their respects. For no matter how evil a person might have been in life, once they closed their eyes, it was as if they had settled all their life's debts. All grudges and resentments seemingly returned to dust. After arranging Ms. Binh's funeral, Ben disbanded the remaining henchmen who had followed him for years, encouraging them to pursue honest work, as he wished to improve the economy and alleviate poverty in their troubled rural area. All the money recovered from previous debtors was used to help build schools and repair several temples in the village. Through these contributions to the community, he hoped to somehow atone for Ms. Binh's past misdeeds against the local people. He also sent Ms. Binh's ashes to the largest temple in the village, hoping that by daily hearing the Buddhist scriptures, her soul would soon be cleansed of its errors. Villagers often whispered that on every moonlit night, those who passed by the abandoned house in the desolate field would clearly see 3 white figures. One stood in front, while 2 others knelt on the ground, bowing ceaselessly. The kneeling figures appeared to be begging the standing woman for forgiveness. The village's ghost rumors eventually reached Ben. To reassure the villagers, he met with the village chief, expressing his desire to buy the abandoned land, and the village chief and local authorities agreed. He then hired workers to completely demolish the abandoned house and clear all the surrounding weeds. The villagers say that when Binh built a small shrine and lit incense regularly where the three white figures appeared, his business began to prosper like a kite in the wind. Everything he did went smoothly. When the new house was completed, he moved in, much to the astonishment of the villagers. Binh proved that he wasn't afraid of ghosts. Despite the rumors, he moved onto the land that villagers had always avoided. Not only did he dare to live there, but he also lived a truly happy life, demonstrating to the villagers that even if ghosts truly exist, as long as one lives with a clear conscience, they will not be harmed by spirits, contrary to popular belief. On the first anniversary of Hoa's death, Tom hosted a small feast, inviting close neighbors including Binh. During the meal, Tom asked Binh, "Ben, I heard you bought the house on the abandoned plot of land." Binh nodded cheerfully and replied, "What's there to be afraid of, Mr. Tom? I live there completely comfortably. I haven't seen any ghosts appear as the rumors claim. So no matter how scary ghosts are, they're not as scary as humans, Mr. Tom." Tom nodded in agreement. "Your words make sense. But still, that land is considered fierce land. Before you moved your wife into the new house, did you invite a psychic to inspect it?" Binh recounted how he had invited a psychic to perform a ceremony to help the wrongful spirits in the abandoned field find peace before he moved into the new house, then concluded, "So now I'm not afraid of anything, Mr. Tom. And I can tell you, since moving into the new house, my work has been very smooth. Everything I do achieves the desired results." Tom smiled and said, "If that's the case, then that's wonderful. We still have to thank you a lot. Without you, our village would still be very poor." Binh smiled humbly. "What are you saying, Mr. Tom? I'm just doing what's right. Besides, all that money came from Ms. Binh's illegal activities. It was only natural for it to go back to the earth. I used it all for good deeds, hoping to make up for some of Ms. Binh's past mistakes." Tom took the wine bottle and poured wine into 2 cups, raising them before everyone present. "Once again, I sincerely thank everyone for being here today on my sister's death anniversary. I hope that in the future, we will all work together to make our village prosperous and help many struggling families escape poverty." As Tom finished speaking, everyone simultaneously cheered and emptied their cups of wine. After putting down his cup on the table, Tom stood up and walked over to replace the nearly burnt-out incense sticks on the altar. He lit them and bowed, then with teary eyes, looked at his sister's portrait and said, "Sister, please rest in peace. The past is the past now. Please don't come back anymore." At the end of the meal, the neighbors gradually left. At this time, Tom and Ngan came downstairs to clear the dishes. Tom asked her, "Have you eaten yet? If not, bring out a fresh plate and eat. I'll take care of the dishes. You're pregnant, so don't do anything too strenuous." Ngan rubbed her belly and laughed. "What's strenuous? It's just a few cups and chopsticks. Let me do it, it'll be done in a minute." When Tom heard Ngan say she was pregnant, he happily turned to her and said, "Congratulations, little niece. Do you know if it's a boy or a girl yet?" Tom smiled and said, "Boy or girl, it doesn't matter as long as it's a child. All children are a gift from heaven."